to be.
Hasn't been that long, Jay.
Well, you won it in 21.
Yes.
So that's 5 years. I hate to say you're,
4 years out of college, okay?
And then she came to me a year ago when the WLL Women's Lacrosse League was launching and said, how do we make this a year-round conversation? I feel like lacrosse conversation pops in March, it ends in May, and we need to try and grow this game, not just on the field, but off the field. And I said, well, when I cover college football and college basketball, I listen to podcasts, I listen to shows. Who does that for women's college lacrosse? And you were like, nobody with regularity. We need a weekly dedicated show. And I said, why don't we do it? And so that was a year ago. And a year later, here we are, first live show in Darien, Connecticut, which is my hometown. And really, I fell in love with the sport watching Kaylee Waters. Where's Kaylee? Who's going to be on the panel today?
Yeah, Kales!
Team USA goalie, along with Shea Dolce. So Team USA just named 2 goalies, and they both played for Darien High School. So that's really neat.
And Jay will work that into every broadcast we have this spring.
Charlotte says that I overload my Darien praise, but here's the thing. If any town produced the player of the year and Chloe Humphrey and Team USA goalies, I'd be working them into every broadcast too. So here, guys, come in, take a seat. Thanks for coming. And what we want to do to start is give you a taste of what we do weekly on the Lacrosse Rundown on Charlotte's YouTube channel, Charlotte North, for about 20, 25 minutes, talk about the season that begins tomorrow, talk about the growing professional league, the WLL, which has their championship series later in the month. And then for the first time ever, there's going to be a summer series dedicated to women's professional lacrosse. Charlotte is the face of that league, and we are so excited to talk about that. And then the international game, and that's really where I think you're going to see the explosion of the sport of women's lacrosse. It's going to be in the Olympics in 2028, and this summer, the World Cup is going to be in Tokyo, Japan. Charlotte's playing on the team along with Kaylee and Chloe and Shay and so many talented teammates. So we've got a lot to talk about. Thank you for coming. And then we've got some incredible special guests that we will introduce as the night goes on. And obviously, you probably walked through it. This night would not be possible without our partners at Rhone, incredible partners. And when you think about what Charlotte and I are trying to do with the Lacrosse Rundown, it's pursuing progress in the sport of lacrosse. And when you look into Rhone, they make incredible clothes. But more than that, they are trying to pursue progress in everything they touch. So it's been a perfect partner for us as we kick off season 2 of the Lacrosse Rundown and with our live show tonight. So
thank you to all of you watching at home.
Yes.
Everybody back home, you guys are the reason this live show is even possible. So thank you guys, and thank you to Rhone for believing in us, because it's not just tonight. The whole season is presented by them. So we can't wait to continue it after tonight.
Yeah, and put in the chat where you're watching from, and who knows, this is our first live show. Maybe we'll take this show on the road as the season goes on and as the years go on. So college lacrosse season starts tomorrow. Boston College, Northwestern, 2 teams that were in the Final Four a year ago. Northwestern is hosting the Final Four this season, I think with championship expectations. Mm-hmm. When you look at the landscape, North Carolina coming as the reigning champs with the reigning player of the year, what are the main storylines when you look at this season at the college level?
Well, I think, we talk about it a lot on our show, and all of you guys who watch college lacrosse, you've followed it for the past few years and understood that there's kind of this notion that there's a top 3 in the women's game, and it's North Carolina, obviously the reigning national champions. It's Northwestern, the runner-up, and Boston College. And it's been that way for as long as, I can remember being out of college and being in the booth with you and Sheehan and just talking storylines every week. It just felt like there was always them 3 separating themselves from the rest of the pack. And every time they had a clear path to championship weekend. And we always talk about who is the 4th team. Who's it going to be? Every year this conversation comes up. And honestly, that's the most exciting conversation to have, because it is up in the air, but it is the 4th spot. And it feels like, for me, the biggest dark horse coming into the year is Stanford. And any of you guys fans of Stanford in the crowd? Anyone watch Stanford lacrosse?
Right.
Anyone been to Stanford?
Rick Beardsley in the back, all about the Cardinal.
That's not true. He is a Syracuse alum. All right. Anyways, they joined the ACC, and we call games for ESPN, but ACC Network as well. So we are very in tune with what happens with the ACC every week, and to have them added into the women's lacrosse landscape was really special. But to see what they did in year one of the ACC, they made it to the ACC semifinals. They ended up losing to Boston College, and then they made a run in the postseason. They lost in a heartbreaking fashion to Florida. But I think this year they're that fourth team that I'm looking at as potentially their first trip to championship weekend in program history.
Yeah, I always look for who's going to be the team that emerges. I think, to your point, Charlotte, it could be Stanford. I think the Big Ten is poised for a liftoff this year. Northwestern has been the gold standard, but I think you look at Penn State with a new head coach and Kayla Trainer. I think you look at Michigan, and I really think you could see strides made across the conference. Ohio State. To me, it won't just be a clean sweep for the ACC. Many years you go in, okay, there's going to be 3 teams automatically from the ACC in the Final Four, and that could very well happen, but I think you could see the Big Ten take a big step forward. As you look at Northwestern, transfer portal in all sports, but they have really loaded up. You know, you have a senior in Madison Taylor, incredibly talented lefty, but they've surrounded her with not just a supporting cast, but some serious star power. How do you see the Wildcats season playing out?
They're going to look entirely different. So tomorrow they play Boston College, and that game is at Boston College. I think Boston College is another team that will look entirely different on the offensive side of the ball. But they bring in transfer Marissa White from North Carolina. And then Northwestern has all these transfers come in, namely Maddie Epke, who was automatic at the draw for JMU. And then Olivia Adamson from Syracuse, who's a goal scorer, who's a right-handed player who will balance Madison Taylor out on the left side of the field. So I think they're going to be, again, in that top 3 conversation until someone says otherwise. But I do think it's going to take them, both teams that play each other tomorrow, it's going to take a little bit of time in February. That's what February lacrosse is about. It's not about how pretty it is. It's just about getting the job done. But I think both teams are going to look entirely different. And I don't know how tomorrow's game's going to go. I really don't.
Well, do you think it weighs in the back of the Northwestern's players' head that they are hosting the Final Four? Because, like, for you, if you knew Boston College was hosting the Final Four, would that, even on game 1, would you be like, we've got some serious pressure because we better be there at the end? It's on our own field.
I think you try to put it in the back of your mind because in February, you're not trying to look too far ahead into postseason because you're going to be, again, an entirely different team. Even for you guys who play high school lacrosse or even in middle school, like you're not going to be the same player today or tomorrow that you will be in May. But I think you have added pressure when you know you're hosting, and you don't want to be the team that misses out on that special, unique opportunity. And especially if you're a senior like Madison Taylor, you know, it's your last chance. It feels almost, you know, too perfect to be true. But I could see them, you know, being a dominant force and, you know, weathering the storm a little bit. They're going to hit adversity. Every team does, besides North Carolina last year, who didn't lose a game. I'm sure they have their own adversity, you know, throughout each
Only
week.
Winning by 8 goals and not 12.
Right, yeah. Injuries and whatnot. But, you know, you go through different adversity throughout the year that helps you in turn when you go to May. But I think, you know, they're going to hit some bumps along the road, but I could see them, you know, being a good host and being there.
Let's talk North Carolina. We just brought them up. Reigning champions. They have the reigning player of the year. You've got unique perspective on this because in your second to last season, you win the national championship. You wore the Tuaraton winner, which is the player of the year. That is the exact situation Chloe Humphrey and North Carolina finds themselves in. So take us into the mindset of what it's like to be a returning player with all the pressure and expectations of you better win another national championship because that's what you did last year.
It's hard. Every day you go to practice understanding the game you have that week, that team is going to give you their best and want to knock you off. And especially, you know, a player like Chloe, who is so dominant and so fun to watch on the offensive end. She's going to draw every team's best defender. She might be face guarded. She might be, you know, heavily pressured, whatever it may be, whatever team's tactics are to try to slow her down. It's going to be much different than a season ago where she had her sister, Ashley Humphrey, also Darien product, who was sometimes that option that was face guarded because she was seen as the facilitator or the feeder behind the cage. So I think it's going to look different, but that's what you love as a player. You love having to adjust and seeing how people are playing you and having to add different elements to your game because you can't just be one dimensional. And that was just her first year of competing on the college level. She's a redshirt sophomore now. And to see those adjustments come into play, that's something I'm really excited to see her do.
You played with Chloe this summer, Team USA. We see it in terms of the stats she produces, but on the practice field and from what you've observed being a teammate of hers, what makes her game special, elevated?
I think the most inspiring aspect of her game is how two-handed she is and how slick she is with her stick work. And I know probably most of you guys who play in the crowd are told by your coaches to go hit the wall or to work on your stick work. And it can sound vague and it can sound repetitive. And sometimes you don't know what direction to go in when you're told that. But the most controllable aspect of your game is your stick work, hands down. And you can see when Chloe steps on the field, whether it's for Team USA or for North Carolina, how much time and effort she's put into her stick work. And it's a direct correlation to her success. And I think it's so special to see, a player of her caliber take those skills so seriously on her own time, because you guys would be surprised. There are so many college athletes out there who get a chance to play Division I, II, or III college lacrosse, and they're not willing to do the extra work. They're not willing to put in the time outside of practice, away from whatever else they may be doing, to dedicate themselves to growing and developing their skills. It's a rare breed in all sports, in all of college sports and beyond. But if you have that drive, it's directly going to translate to your success.
Okay, so show of hands in the room. Who thinks North Carolina is going to go back-to-back and win a second national championship?
And we cannot vote because we call games.
Yeah. Okay, so about half the room, 30% of the room. Boston College. Anyone BC? We've got a couple BC. Anyone else not Boston College or North Carolina? All right, we got two in the back. Don't tell me Syracuse.
I gotta say, my daughter's there.
Oh, no, Rick. First-year head coach Reggie Thorpe. We can talk 30 seconds for the Orange for Rick in the back there.
Just for you.
They're going to have two really early tests. They play Maryland and they play North Carolina first two games of the season right out of the chute. You're going to know exactly where they rank up right out of the gate.
Last year they were young, very, very young. Most of their players that earned playing time were freshmen or sophomores. So they're now juniors and seniors. They have Emma Muchnick, one of the best midfielders in the country, who was just named to the Team USA roster as well. But a new coaching staff, a new vibe, and we'll see. You'll be in the booth for their first test or second test against
North Carolina. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see North Carolina in the Dome. It's not just Chloe. She's got such a strong group of teammates. That sophomore class could do something very special. I don't want to put the expectations on them, but when you win as freshmen, it opens the door to, could this team do something unthinkable, which is win 4 in a row? And a lot needs to go into that, but it is possible, and certainly will be a talking point throughout that season. I think one thing that Charlotte was so good at as a player, and for all the players in the room tonight, is, leave that to the media to talk about. Focusing on one game at a time. Like, it's coach speak, but it's true. For the coaches in the room, we got Lisa Lindley, probably the best high school coach in the history of the sport. It's easier said than done when you look at your team and go, we have to focus on one game at a time. How do you do it at the beginning of a season, just looking at the 20 games in front of you, saying we can't focus about anything other than the first one?
How many times on Coach's Zooms have we heard that?
Yeah, but it's true.
It is true.
The teams that can focus usually win.
Yeah, but you scout a team, you prepare for a team at any level each week. And so, your focus is solely on that matchup. And then also your unit development. Whatever your unit didn't do well in the previous game, that's what you're working on that week. Whether it's the draw, offense, defense, your goalies, whatever it may be, your unit is working on getting better, but also preparing for the opponent. So it can be easier if you just allow yourself to really focus on what you have, Monday to Sunday that week and who your opponent is. And sometimes that's having that opponent in the locker room somewhere, on the door every time you walk out, whatever it may be, to just remind yourself of what your focus is that day. And again, February lacrosse, it's cold outside and everybody understands.
We have 1.5 feet of snow out there, and it's lacrosse season.
Yeah, most of these games tomorrow will all be indoors and they'll be live streamed, but it's all going to be, much different than it'll look in May.
So let's switch to the professional game, the Women's Lacrosse League, which launched last season. When you finished your playing career at Boston College, you knew you would have opportunities on the international level with Team USA, but there was a question mark on how much of a professional game you would be able to play. Now that we're here and you have a full league that's playing both with a winter series and the championship series and a full summer season, take us through kind of your journey. How has this happened, and how excited are you to, just in a couple of weeks here, picking up the stick and playing in a live game?
I know we're 2 weeks away. How many of you guys watched the WLL last year? All right.
Look at that.
Let's go. Almost everyone. So we play on ESPN. We have an awesome partnership with ESPN. And this guy and Mrs. Birch, the legendary she and Sandwick Birch, will be in the booth again for our games. And it's high level production. It's a highly run organization. And that's what we want for you guys and for everybody else coming out of college and who aspire to play professionally. Is, we want to be the next biggest women's sports league, but the next biggest pro sports league on the whole, because we believe in this sport and we believe how exciting it is. And we believe that everybody who finishes their college career, they're only going to continue to improve if they're given the right resources and opportunities to do so. So I truly feel, and I know Kaylee feels the same way, that we have the best players in the world on these rosters. Mm-hmm. These rosters are small. It is so hard to make one of these rosters professionally. We have 4 teams. We've got Maryland, Boston, which I play for. Kaylee plays for the Maryland Charm. We've got New York, and we've got California. And it's the first 4 teams, but it's certainly going to continue to grow. And, obviously we love an opportunity to play competitively, but every single person, that's been chosen and given an opportunity to play in this league takes it very seriously. And nobody will stop at anything to chase down that championship. That's for sure. And
it's a different format than college lacrosse, or if you play high school lacrosse. It's the sixes format, which is what they're going to play in the Olympics in 2028. Tell us the differences from the athlete perspective of the college game and having to play in the sixes format.
Well, it's special because we now get to do both, but having the sixes format be on TV for you guys to watch and see played at such a high level, you can familiarize yourself with it and then go play it on your own and go play it with your teams. Even if you're just playing pickup lacrosse, you just need, 6-on-6, 5-on-5 plus a goalie, short amount of space. You don't need much equipment. And it's truly hockey and basketball combined in terms of pace of play, the scheme, the number of people out on the field. And then, obviously all the things we love about lacrosse are involved in that too, with the hand-eye coordination, the skill element. But it's nonstop. It's back and forth. You score a goal, the goalie picks it up and you're going the other way. So it's actually the only form of lacrosse where both teams get the same amount of possession. So that prompts every team with a different challenge. And then, we're going to quickly pivot once we hit May and join our pro teams again to play the 10v10 format, which is what you guys are used to seeing. It's what we play at the international level. It's similar to the college game, but less players on the field. The college game currently is 12-on-12, which we've talked at length about how much we want it to move to the 10-on-10 format because of all the different aspects that it offers in terms of space, in terms of showing elite athleticism and skill on both sides of the ball. But for the WLL, we're so excited to be able to showcase both disciplines because there is space for both. And we feel the need for both for all fans and for the pro players as well to be able to play in both. And
you've got a busy summer because not only do you have the launch of the WLL in the 10v10 format, traveling to different cities. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to be playing in 7 different cities throughout this summer, including in Fairfield,
Connecticut. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right down the road.
But you're also going to be putting on the Team USA jersey and competing in Tokyo, Japan at the World Cup. So how do you balance, and we're going to get into this more with Nate and Jason, the preparation when you have so much lacrosse to prepare for over the summer with 2 different teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about staying connected as a team. And you guys, I'm sure can relate to this if you guys are on teams currently. It's all about being able to stay connected. And that is, something that has been a challenge in years past because we are all spread out around the country. And we also have a lot going on. Some people are college coaches. Some people are playing collegiately, as you mentioned, Chloe, Eliza Osborne, and some other players. And we try to stay as connected as possible. So whether that be, catching up on a team Zoom or checking in with, small groups, checking in on your teammates and understanding how you're training. I'm fortunate enough to train with some of my teammates in Boston where I live. but it's every day. People are getting up at 5 a.m. People are making sure they get their lifting, their conditioning, their skill work in. They're playing in small-sided games. Just yesterday I was with 6 of my teammates playing in a little 3-on-3 game of our own. And it's all about finding little ways to plug those things in and understanding that our teammates are doing the same around the country. And that's our complete motivation, is understanding everybody's doing it. And how serious our job is. This is our job. Our job, when we are given an opportunity to represent our country, is to put our best foot forward and be the best U.S. team we can possibly be. And even though we won't reunite until training camp in June, we know we have a duty every day to inch closer towards that goal.
And I think when you look at this summer, it really is a microcosm for how the sport is growing. I mean, when you think about 10 years ago that there would be a professional league traveling multiple cities, that a team would be competing on a world stage in the World Cup with so many other countries that have raised their level as well. It really is incredible. And I think it's also just the beginning when you think about what 2028 is going to bring, because we've said it a couple of times, but in Los Angeles, lacrosse in that sixes format is going to be a part of the Olympics on the women's side for the first time in the history of the sport.
Yeah. And for those of you guys who don't know the lay of the international schedule, obviously it is so huge to be included in the Olympics in 2028, but there's so much more that is going to occur leading up to that. There are so many international events, whether it be the World Cup this summer or qualifying events. We don't just play in these big tournaments. There are qualifying events for every single time we go out and compete. So this past summer, we talked about this on our show over the summer, but we had our PALA qualifier, which was our continental qualifier. Every single continent has their own qualifier, and each team has to punch their ticket to something like the World Cup in Tokyo or to the Olympics. So there are so many steps in place where teams are fighting and clawing to just get to Tokyo. We saw this past summer, Argentina was on the bubble of trying to win their final game down in Florida, which is where our qualifier was held. And it was just so inspiring to see how much it meant to these countries that are now playing lacrosse, especially women's lacrosse. They're now, being given the resources to fund their program, to be given out equipment for all these players to really dive in, and to see the investment by all these countries. There's over 95 countries that are playing lacrosse that you guys probably have never even seen or even knew that they had a team. So it's really special to go to an event like a World Cup and see, how hard these teams have worked to qualify. And then once they're there, to win their pool and to try to, medal.
And as Charlotte and I talk about it every week, you remind yourself it's a lot to keep track of. And I do think it is a challenge to the growth of the sport, is there's so many different formats. You've got college, you've got pro, you've got international. How do we, as a sport, as we try and move it forward, make it more bite-sized and easy to understand when you have all these different formats and all these different, I'm thinking if I'm just a middle school player, right? What version am I watching? What are the rules? I think that simplifying is still something that is a work in progress with the sport.
These poor refs.
Poor I mean, that's the thing. And you look at the numbers, there's less and less people that want to referee because it's a thankless job. The rules are confusing. And I do think that's a big part of it.
It is. And I believe that every kid starting out in lacrosse should start in the sixes discipline, because you learn quickly what skills this sport requires. You must be athletic to play sixes lacrosse. And you play every position. So you're forced to learn the skills of every position, and that only benefits that kid moving forward. You learn how to play offense, defense, and transition. You're able to really just digest it in a bite-sized way, and then you can translate those skills to the field game easily. But I think, you mentioned, I think we've got to narrow down the list of rules that we have and have them, the same across the board. We've got to have the same rules apply to the college game, the professional game, and the international game. And that takes work from every committee. And, a lot of times it takes years, to go through those rule changes. It was a rule change year for the college women's lacrosse landscape. And there are a whole bunch of rules that will be, thrown your guys' way very soon on these broadcasts to explain, the difference in 8-meter calls this year, the difference in the green card rule this year. There are so many different different rules that are out there that can be confusing to the new player. Hopefully, we do a good job of explaining why those rule changes have come into effect and how hard the rules committee has worked to try to speed the game up to fit inside the 2-hour broadcast window that is often talked about. So more games are on TV. But also just for the common fan who turns on the TV, who has never seen the sport before, to understand really easily what the sport is, what it's required to play it, and how to be a fan of it, how to understand it, how to understand every stoppage in play, every hand signal by a referee, and everything else. But we've got to simplify it for sure.
As I'm looking out at this incredible room, thank you guys so much for coming. I want to take kind of a pause. If anybody has a question for Charlotte before we kind of move on to our other guests, and you're going to be able to come up and when we're done here and engage one-on-one. But if you have a question, about what we're talking about right now, college, pro, international, we'll get a mic to you. And then if we don't, we'll bring up our guests and keep it moving. But that was kind of a taste of what we do every Tuesday night. State of the sport, and obviously as the games start coming, we're going to be breaking down the games every week.
Yeah. Any questions, guys?
We'll get a mic. We'll get a microphone out to you.
So NIL, sir.
Yep.
There you go.
For the people back home, thank you.
Yeah. Great, guys. So NIL, obviously a huge thing in college sports. You talk ACC, you talk Big Ten, some of the most prolific NIL budgets.
Yep.
How does that impact women's lacrosse, and how is that changing the game?
Great question.
It's certainly impacting, every program, especially, these big time schools that, are being given, the full allotment of money now. I think it's presenting recruiting challenges a little bit because it varies school to school. And it varies based on the athletic department. It varies based on, choices from coaching staffs and whatnot. But I think it is a really good step in the right direction. I do think there needs to be a little bit more regulation around it and a little bit more attention and focus on how much of it is actually going to the women's sports at a school compared to the men's sports. Everyone has the argument that football and men's basketball bring in all the revenue, which is true. But for so long, those two sports were given the resources to bring in the revenue. So they were given the opportunity to play on primetime television. They were given all of these different resources that the women were not being given and weren't able to prove what they could possibly do to bring in the same type of eyeballs, the same type of dollars. So, had it been even, 20 years ago and moving forward, I think you would have seen a quicker realization of what the women can provide and how much excitement there is around these female athletes. You're seeing what's happening in women's college basketball.
Yeah.
Perfect example. They're now being given the same resources in the March Madness tournament or the same, television slots, on all these big networks. And because they're being given this, now they're bringing in all these big dollars and they're being given a big chunk of the pie for the NIL stuff. So, for women's lacrosse, it's a different story, but I think it's a step in the right direction for sure.
And for people that don't know, NIL, name, image, and likeness, it came in with good intentions, which was if you could monetize your name, your image, and your likeness, you were going to get compensated for that. Mm-hmm. I call college football and college basketball. It's turned into a complete disaster because it has turned into pay for play. I would say in a sport like women's lacrosse, they are actually getting compensated for their name, image, and likeness. It's actually what it was designed to be. And you've got players that are making significant money right now in college lacrosse, but they're doing it the right way. Whereas a football player just shows up, they go, here's a check for $1 million, and they don't really do any name, image, and likeness. They just play. I think what we could see is some guardrails put on where it actually has to come back to you have to be with a company or, you have to actually be sponsored for your name, image, and likeness. That's going to help a sport like women's lacrosse because, again, at the grassroots level, that's where the money's been coming from already. And two, if the athletic departments have to abide by Title IX in relation to NIL, well, guess what? The football coach doesn't want any less money. So the athletic department is going to have to give an equal amount or some determined percentage amount to their women's sports programs. Well, guess what? I think women's lacrosse, particularly in the ACC and the Big Ten, is poised to pick up a lot of that money. I would not be surprised if we're sitting here 5-10 years from now and NIL budgets for a women's lacrosse program is 7 figures. And that is significant investment and significant money. You know, if you're a young player in this room, it could come your way if you continue to work hard and the landscape develops. So I appreciate that question. Why don't we bring up
Let's do it.
our first round of guests? Nate Checketts, the founder, co-founder, and CEO of Rhone, our presenting sponsor, not just tonight, but all season long on the Lacrosse Rundown. Nate, come on up. We mentioned it earlier, but Nate, thank you so much for your belief in Charlotte and I and what we're doing here on the Lacrosse Rundown. And when I right here, and then we'll bring up Jason as well. Jason Gramelski, owner of NOLA, right down the road on the Post Road in town. Yep. Probably you work with half the people in this room, including Nate.
Including me.
Yeah.
Including me.
But Nate, when we were looking for a partner for season 2 of the Lacrosse Rundown, Rhone was the first call, because when you read about what you've established, not just as an apparel brand, but as a company that is so committed to mental fitness, just improvement and pursuing progress, which you just stood in the back and heard, that's exactly what we're trying to do here in the sport of lacrosse. Just tell the audience, why is it more important to you to have the mental fitness component of your company and not just produce incredible clothing, which it is. We're all wearing it tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, first I have to shout out our next door neighbors, Paige, Steven. They've got their 3 kids here with them. Finn's orchestrating. Oh, there he is in the back. Emma, June, and Louisa literally live right behind us, but they're the ones that made this connection, and I'm so grateful for them. They're such good people. And we're lucky to live in a town like Darien, just full of great people like Jason and them. So when we founded Rhone, we were everybody's like, the world does not need another apparel business. There's endless amounts of choices. And we kind of challenged ourselves. I was working at the NFL at the time, and I worked with all of the big partners there at the league. But something kept standing out to me, that you had every active business in the market kind of telling the same story, which is run faster, jump higher, lift more. And you have an enormous amount of pressure on athletes, and especially student athletes, middle school, high school athletes. You want to be better. You want to grow stronger. I was an athlete. I like to think in some ways I still am, but certainly I love sports, and I love to play. And I grew up in a household where my dad also worked in professional sports, and so I saw athletics at the absolute highest level. And yet I realized somewhere on my journey that I was going to be a father, and I was going to be a husband, and I was going to be a community member, and that, there was more to life than just physical fitness. And sadly, I have friends who have dealt with, everything from mental illness to just, minor levels of depression and anxiety. And I've experienced those things myself. And I just thought, man alive, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about this. And if we do, you hear the term mental health and people immediately start thinking about mental illness. And in reality, the term we like to use, mental fitness, is that it gives you hope. It gives you the ability to think of, actually, this is just something I need to work on. If somebody says physical health, you don't think, oh, diabetes and cardiovascular disease and heart attack. But if I say mental health, that's where people go. And instead, we want to reframe it. We want people to think about, actually, I need to get adequate sleep, and I need to spend time in social connection, and I need to, drink enough fluids, and all these things impact your mental health. And so we call it mental fitness, and there are things that you can do to practice it. And just like you can go and see Dr. Jason over here and work on rehabbing your muscles. And I've been to him multiple times because, again, remember I said I like to think of myself as an athlete. So I end up in his office more than I'd like to. But that's the whole point. The point is that we want people to reframe it as whole person health. This year, we've launched something that we call the 12 Pursuits. You'll see the stickers. Every month is dedicated towards a different pillar of health and wellness. We're trying to get back to the basics. You go on Instagram. I mean, it's so cool to be on stage with you guys. I love what you're building and what you stand for. But you go on social media these days, and it's like, make sure you're sitting in front of your red light therapy, and then you're, going and doing, you know what? Like, great, do those things. Go to the sauna. There's some really important good things. But you know what else you can do? You just go outside, and you can spend time with friends, and you can drink enough water, and you can put these devices down that have, overrun our lives and fill us with all kinds of information. Health and wellness is not an enigma, but it's made out to be because of the business and transaction behind it. And we just want to get back to foundational pillars to teach people how to be healthy physically and mentally.
That's amazing. I think that message resonates with every athlete or anyone who knows an athlete in the room. I think for lacrosse specifically, some of the landscape of the youth, game and even beyond that at the high school level, these kids are playing almost every day, whether it be a tournament, a showcase, a practice, whatever it may be. So I think that's really important, especially right now because of how much things have dialed up as of the past, 5 years. How would you suggest, to anyone who's watching, how would you suggest they balance the two, mental and physical preparation and fitness, when there are so many things going on around them?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the challenge that we have is that our central nervous system in today's environment is constantly in sympathetic mode. We're in fight or flight. You have these two modes of your central nervous system, and I shouldn't talk about anything with a doctor on the stage. Yeah. but traditionally, humans were meant to be in a parasympathetic state more than we are today. And so just teaching people that rest and recovery is as important as the training, I think is crucial. Like, it just reframing it to say, you are actually doing as much or more for your body by resting, by taking the appropriate time to recover, and by doing the things that help contribute to your health. Your performance will be better if you can actually take care of the other side of the coin. I mean, I'd love for you to answer this.
I think the key is every one of these kids, they idolize the collegiate program, the Team USA. You just step back a little bit, like, I need to do something every day. They get on the device, they see Instagram. Oh, my friend's working out there. My friend's doing this program. So, I mean, I have a little money in the game because my daughter plays the sport. And it comes to me and I say, just take a big step back. Guess what you're doing today? Nothing. Do something you want to do. Go watch a show. Go hang out with your friends. Nothing lacrosse. I can throw a statistic out for everybody. If you think about a major injury in a youth level, 80% of the kids that get hurt have some kind of injury, not even the kids from a professional standpoint. 80% of those girls that get hurt will have some kind of eating disorder, depression, suicidal thoughts, and that's tough. And out of that, you're going to have 28% of those kids will never return to sport, ever.
Wow.
So that mental battle starts from day one when you get hurt. I see those kids. They get hurt in the field. They come right into my office. Are you there? Can you meet me at the office? I take a look at it and I'm like, okay, how do we approach this? How is this kid psychologically? And I think part of the game that I teach my employees, what I think is very important, is getting within their head. See where they are. Don't make a big deal out of it. Let's make this fun. Let's work some abs. Let's work something else. Break a sweat. What do you need to do? Just because you have a ACL, which I have tons in my office, is the number one thing, and some back injuries, you may be out of the sport. The average is 10.8 months. You're going to be out of it with an ACL reconstruction. That's huge. How do we prevent that? Taking a step back, re-examining our life, proper training, motion, hydration, nutrition, all the stuff that we don't actually do. The kids go and go and go. Number one, sleep. How does our body recover? 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. So these key points that Nate's talking about are huge.
I think, Jason, great insight. NOLA, physical therapy. But when we chatted, so much of physical therapy is that mental therapy and mental fitness. And it's become such a buzz in the society the last 5 years, which is a great thing that we're talking about it. But a lot of people, particularly younger people, keep hearing mental health, mental fitness, and it's not easy to understand. It's not bite-sized. And Nate, that's where you brought in the 12 pursuits. One pursuit per month to really make a tangible, actionable thing to help your mental fitness. So what I want you to do is explain, the 12 pursuits, why Rhone developed these. And then, Jason, if you could give us a tangible, actionable thing and why it matters, because everybody in this room, part of the reason they're here, they want to get better.
Yeah, and getting better and progress and aspirations, that's good, right? Like if you feel as an athlete or as a parent or as a person, like I want to be faster, or I want to get better on the field, or I want to be a better passer or better at my stick work. Like that's good. Those are good feelings. But I think what we felt like is, again, we wanted to give a tangible roadmap for just whole human health. And when I was 19, somebody gave me a book on Benjamin Franklin, and I didn't know this. I knew a lot of things about Benjamin Franklin, right? He did a lot in his life, but I didn't know that before he had founded the University of Pennsylvania and done a bunch of the things that we now know him for, he wrote down what he called his 13 virtues. And 13 wasn't a number that he came to because there were 13 colonies or any other reason. It's because 13 went into 52 weeks evenly 4 times. And so what his point was that he wanted to focus on each of these virtues for 4 weeks straight, because he wanted to become what he called the perfect person. And he felt overwhelmed trying to do it all at once. And when I think about health and wellness, it starts to feel like a checklist. Again, especially you see some of these influencer routines and you're like, holy cow. I mean, you must have more time than anybody I know. I don't know any working person or, anybody, like, I just don't even understand. And really it becomes exhausting. But if you can break down, if you can destigmatize what health and wellness is, it's doing the basics well, not perfect, just well. And so we identified 6 more physical traits of health and wellness and 6 more mental focus traits. And we picked 12 because there's 12 months and that felt easier. And so each month has a dedicated focus. So we're in February, for us, is the month of sleep. I get a lot of grief from the team that we picked the shortest month for arguably the most important attribute. But we come up with little challenges and games, and we'd like you can track your sleep. And if you wanted to try that one magnesium sleep supplement, you could try it this month. But then guess what? After this, whatever you gained in terms of your ability to improve your sleep, just run with it. And then we're going to be focusing on something else. We have nutrition, breath work, but there's also things like gratitude, service. One of the new pursuits we changed to, which I think you'll appreciate, is play. People forget how to play, including in high school and middle school, because sport becomes too intense. We play the game because it's play. It's supposed to be fun. So, that's the whole goal is, and we have a calendar. It's a free calendar. This is a free program. We'll have journals and we'll have partners, but you can go to our website today and you can download a giant wall calendar that you can print, and it's free. And the whole goal is to get your family, your businesses. We have massive companies reaching out saying, can you just teach our employees how to do this? You're like, it's there, just down there. We're not just, so the whole thing is that we just want to teach people how to take care of the basics well. And we think that'll have a bigger ripple effect than anything else.
The aspect of having fun is something that a lot of people lose and forget about, as they go on and are in pressured situations or they're trying to achieve their goals, especially in lacrosse. And I think for all the parents watching or in the room, how can they help foster an environment to allow for their children, who are getting into sports, not just lacrosse, but any sport, to remind them to have fun? Because, people are told that all the time, have fun while you do it, have fun at practice and stuff. But I think for the athlete, it helps them actually unlock, their fullest potential when they are having fun. I know for me, I feel like I'm at my best when I am enjoying my teammates and enjoying the competition and the ebbs and flows of a game or whatever it may be. So how would you offer advice to parents on that?
I can just show, I love statistics and I'll throw them out there. If you look at over a 25-year span, when a child stops playing a sport, 2000, the average age was 15 to 17 years old. 75% of people stopped playing organized sport. Anybody want to take a guess on what the age is of today? 2025, last year?
It's younger.
11 to 13.
Really? Wow.
So what has changed in the course of 25 years? Cell phones, pressures, You have to win, has to be competitive. And these are things that I think parents need to take a step back. I mean, I can tell you in organized ice hockey, it was involved in that for a while. Watching them now, you put a ball on the ice and they kick it around like a soccer ball. You eliminate the stick and the puck and the stick work. Now that requires a whole different thought process from brain to feet. I think it's changing it up, making things fun, and not always having the competitive edge. My big thing is, why do you need to have trophies? I mean, when I coached, I was like, why are we handing these out to every kid who participated? We're here to have fun. Why do we need a trophy at kindergarten for playing soccer? And you think the average age of a kid starting a sport is 5 to 6 years of age.
Yeah.
Why do we need to give them a trophy? They're like, oh, I have to have a trophy. You have to have a reward for everything. No, you don't. You played. You had fun. That's what it's about. I
got to share a personal story, and hopefully he won't mind me sharing this. But I've got an 8th grade son who loves football. Like the poor kid, you walk into his bedroom, there's Giants stuff everywhere. And I say poor kid because if you know anything about football, the Giants won 2 games this last season. Now we've got some hope. John Harbaugh is coming in, and but
I'm a Jets fan, so it could be worse.
Oh, they're right. There is a lower end.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so I understand.
So we've all got our challenges, but he loves football, and he's wanted to play. He had a very serious head injury when he was younger, and he finally got cleared to play. And this last year, he played, and this was one of his coaches. And Jason doesn't just say this; he lives it. And like Will was having a tough season, wasn't getting as much playing time as he wanted, and there were so many practices where he just felt dejected. And I saw multiple times Jason on the sideline, putting his arm around Will, whispering in his ear. And like, as a parent, man alive, like it means the world to have a coach who just gets it. You know what I mean? Like the goal for a parent or a coach isn't the goal, isn't the touchdown, isn't the rushing yards, that's not why we play these games. The goal is to build people. That's why we do it. And to me, watching Jason coach, I was so grateful to have him on the football field with my son. And I just think we need more coaches like that. And I think we need parents who understand that, like, so few of our kids are going to go like, we hope we have more Charlotte Norths and of the world, but like, guess what? If they turn out to be a great human being, man alive, we need more great humans in the world.
Yes.
We don't always need more athletes, and athletics and sports can build that, but only under the right direction. And we, in so many ways, societally have lost that. And like, I just want to say thank you publicly for what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate the glad.
Wow, that was a beautiful moment.
But I think that's the key when you approach something. Like I tell my own kids, if you're not all in, don't do it.
Right.
So the biggest problem we have all these youth sports, they look up like, how do I become Charlotte North? Well, Charlotte North learned how to walk at some point. So you can't run before you learn how to walk. And so you need to take a big step back. We can't build a mansion on a piece of wet land. We need to put a nice foundation. How do we get a foundation? That's what we're supposed to do when we're kicking a ball around in kindergarten. So we had to create the foundation. And I'm like, where does that start? I feel like we've lost the foundation. And that's the biggest problem in youth sports. So I want every kid to go back and go, okay, I need to learn how to run. Let me get my running form down. Let me work on some knee stability. Let me learn how to do a wall squat. Well, have fun with it. You don't need to go lift weights in a gym and do some plyometric workout that you see some high school kid doing, because most likely that's going to destroy your foundation, not build your foundation. And I have the biggest problem. I have these kids come to my office 8 to 13 years of age. I mean, I have an 11-year-old with an ACL in my office right now. These things are all preventable things. If a girl steps back, it's research proven, you can decrease ACLs by 40 to 70% by doing basic movement patterns at a young age. That's before 13 years of age. We don't do that. I don't understand why people don't. And this all goes back to, you don't need to do front squats. You don't need to do back squats. We don't need to do lunges. Go back to the basics. You can go look this up, FIFA 11 program, PEPS program. These are basic movements, which I designed a program for Lisa Lindley, which I think we've had a good reduction in ACLs in Darien. And I can compare that to New Canaan because I work with both sides and I see the difference in the incidence of ACLs. And that's the number one injury you're going to see, that and back fractures in a young lacrosse player. Look, I can teach you how to move. I can't teach you how to use your stick. I tell every kid.
And to your point earlier, an ACL injury or any injury then, statistically affects your mental fitness. And, kind of the relationship between physical fitness and mental fitness is what we're getting at. I want to bring Charlotte back in here because when you are on the field, you've got the best competitive fire that I've ever seen. But your recovery is, I think, what separates you.
Well, I think it's just learning, over time, how much of a priority it is and how much it can impact you as an athlete. I mean, you're seeing it be implemented more and more at the professional level, being given the resources and the time and the space to be able to find that out. I don't think a lot of youth athletes and high school athletes really explore it as much as they should, and how much it can benefit you. I mean, we spend every single week, prioritizing 2 or 3 days where we're diving into every aspect of recovery. And then, that doesn't include the pre-workout, post-workout, whatever it may be, aspect of recovery. And we're lucky to have great strength coaches, great athletic trainers, great team doctors who constantly remind us of this. But I think that's also part of it. That's what we lack in the youth space as well, is people and mentors who are reminding you every day how much it can benefit you. And I think the biggest takeaway, again, from all the amazing things you said, is understanding what it is that is that mental reset for you, whether it is walking outside, spending time with friends, whatever it may be. It's going to be different for everyone, but learning from an early age what that is for you is so critical. So in the big moments, in the thick of the season, you're about to play in a championship game, you're so nervous that you could throw up 5 minutes before the game. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to grab onto in those moments to bring yourself back to center and to calm your mind down? Like, those are the things that you guys can start practicing now that I wish I did at the high school level. I learned later on, what worked for me, but it's just been such a huge part. And at the professional level and internationally, like, female athletes are expected to retire or stop playing at a very young age. And we're trying to push that limit, push the boundary, and push that expectation and that narrative in the world of women's sports. But we can't do that without prioritizing something like the 12 pursuits or something like mental fitness and recovery. It's incredible to see how much it can really do for an athlete.
Yeah. And I like, just to give some tactical, practical things, because when you come and you hear people talk, it's like, it feels very ethereal. But I would say, there are a couple things that you can put in your mental health toolkit, right? If you find yourself getting uncomfortable or scared or panicking, or, you're scrolling social media, you find yourself in that comparison game, stop, take a deep breath, hold it for 4 seconds and let it out. You can down-regulate your central nervous system in 2 breaths. You can feel a difference. So learning how to do these simple things can help you prioritize your health. And I love what you said. Find something that works for you. The other thing that I encourage people to do is you can use your phone, you can use a pad of paper, write down 10 of your favorite moments in life, right? It could be a moment on the lacrosse field. It could be, hanging out with friends. And then when you're having a tough moment, step back into one of those great moments of your life. Experience that joy, smile, laugh. What did it feel like? What did it smell like? Those things can help ground you. One more, feel your feet. Curl your toes, uncurl your toes. Do that 10 times. These are ways of getting back into your body and getting out of the, what some people call the monkey mind, that just takes you down these crazy thought patterns that are oftentimes are lying to you. And so this is what I want people to understand, is there's things you can do, right? We can't make mental health too ethereal. It's a problem. We know it's a problem. Let's do something about it. Let's spend time with each other. What's working for you? Charlotte, what's helping you? Like, that's a great question, Jay. If you find something that works for you, share it with your friend. By the way, the best thing you can do is just check in on each other. How are you doing? Put your hand on somebody's shoulder, on their knee, with their permission appropriately, right? Check in on them. How are you doing? If you do that, if somebody feels checked in for 2 minutes at a time, once a week, the mental health outcomes change. That's what the research shows. 2 minutes once a week. A text. How are you doing?
And being intentional about it, right? that, Jason, we were talking about this. It's one thing to say, I'm going to be committed to mental fitness, but breaking it down in 1 minute, 2 minutes a day, just having that conversation with yourself, being intentional about it, you are already ahead of the game.
Totally.
Well, I want to thank you guys for
Thanks for
sharing
having
the
us.
insight. Incredible.
Thank you guys.
And once again, Nate, your commitment to what Charlotte and I are trying to build, not just in the lacrosse community, but in the athletic community. And you listen to Nate speak, and you have to remind yourself, this guy's selling apparel for a living. I mean, but you walk the walk, you talk the talk. You are so much more than an apparel brand. Thank you to you. Thank you to your incredible staff. They've got goodie bags for everybody. Everybody's leaving here with awesome Rhone swag, which is, everyone loves swag.
I got a shout out. We have the reason why our company is great, and I'm really proud of it, is we have the most amazing team. And we're thrilled to be partners with you. And I love, the growth of women's sports. Everybody's talking about it. It's just sports, right?
Exactly.
My sister, she was our first head of customer service.
Yep.
She just got signed yesterday.
She's a colleague of ours.
She just got signed yesterday by ESPN.
Yeah.
So now she's got her own sports radio platform. She talks a lot about women's sports, a lot about, so anyways, I could not be more thrilled to be partners with you guys.
We've got to get her to Chicago for the national championship,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
on ESPN.
I'll see what I can do. She doesn't take my calls anymore.
You're just doing your check-ins.
Yeah.
And we are doing a promo code for everybody watching on YouTube, everybody in the room tonight, Rundown 20. If you go to the store in Westport, there's soon to be a store right here in Darien in the year 2026. And use the promo code Rundown 20. And you're going to get a great discount off some great products. So.
And check out the 12 Pursuits online.
Yes,
Right.
download that
Thanks so much,
calendar.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Truly. You guys rock. Thank you.
And our final guest, we're going to bring up Kaylee Waters, who, how many years ago, Kaylee? 15 years ago, I was watching her in goal and winning championships for Darien High School. She won a championship in North Carolina in 2016. And now 10 years later, you are still playing professionally, internationally, a true inspiration. So a perfect way
Kaylee
to end the
Waters.
night.
Welcome.
This is full circle.
Thanks, friend.
This is full circle. I
Thanks
actually
for
watched
trusting me
Kaylee
here.
play flag football. We were talking about youth football earlier. Kaylee was the best player on an all boys team. You're the only girl on that team, and you kicked their ass. So that was second, third grade, I think. And you've blossomed into an incredible goalie. When you think about playing high school lacrosse for Darien all those years ago, that you would still be playing, that there would even be the platform to play the sport you love more than a decade later, what has kept you pursuing this sport and really being on the front lines of growing this sport?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in middle school, it was different recruiting then. People weren't talking about colleges. So it's kind of like each opportunity has come, I feel like, at such a great point in my life. I was able to experience lacrosse firsthand of just playing for the joy of it, not the stress of feeling like I have to show up to every event, every showcase. And then I get to college then I get to high school, and it kind of just worked its way out of, okay, there are college opportunities now. I purely was just playing for the fun of it. I wanted to be good at it. There was always a challenge piece to it, a next step. And then when I was in college, though, there was no talk of a professional league. So you're kind of just in this moment of time, trying to make the most of it, loving the sport for what it is, because you don't know what else is there. Then I get to my senior year of college, and there's a pro league. So I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Then you play in a pro league, and it fizzles out year after year. So what keeps me going is that there are opportunities there. Maybe I didn't see it all the way through, but I just continue playing because I knew that's what I loved. Like, why not keep playing? And I'm so grateful for those opportunities. And that, now we have the WLL and the USA team. I didn't even know about the USA team at all in middle school or high school, no exposure to that. So I just have felt so grateful that the sport has really filled me up and just naturally led me the way it has.
For those of you who don't know, Kaylee is one of the, and I mean this in the best way possible, craziest goalies I've ever met, because she wants the most amount of shots that she could ever possibly get in a 24-hour day. She wants to do the craziest drills that are not fun at all for goalies, just to get better. So it just speaks to your work ethic and how badly you want to be a part of, these organizations and teams and achieve success and get better every single year that you step out and play. And you always put your best foot forward. And when you hear Nate and Jason talk about the mental aspect as well, I know you prioritize your recovery as well every day. You are one of the best at it, and you're a whole reason why most of our team prioritizes it as well. What does hearing, their conversation mean to you, and how do you prioritize mental fitness?
Yeah, well, I think I have the most experience out of everyone. I'm 30 on the team compared to everyone else. But first off, I was a little nervous when I first came up here. So I do want to say thank you, Charlotte J. I'm not the pros. I'm not used to being on this mic. But thank you for having me. It's really special to be in Darien, the place where it all started, and seeing familiar faces of the people who helped me get to where I am today. So it gets me a little choked up because it means a lot. I got my family here, coaches. Yeah.
Hometown hero.
When I think about, I've never heard the term mental fitness, and now I'm sticking to it. I love that because there's so much. I've been playing the game for, I don't even know. I started in 6th grade. Let's say 18 years.
We won't make you do math.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Stick to saving.
And so much of my training, it was always about the physical piece. I love that physical challenge. I was always scoring goals in other sports, and then I become a goalie, and I'm like, what is this? I have to stand still,
Kaylee does not stand still.
No, sure. And so, and I was older, and so I like that challenge of, hey, how can I be great in this position that not many people know about? So I had to discover that on my own. And so at first it was this physical piece, and then, as I get older and there's pressure in college, there's this mental piece, and you don't really tap into that. And then I continue to have these opportunities to play. And so I've learned that there's kind of like, at least for me, 2 mental pieces. And one of them is more like sports psychology. And what's helped for me is a year and a half ago, I reconnected with a former U.S. coach, Jess Wilk, when I was first on the U.S. team. She was in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we trained together. And I had learned that while I was training, I was so competitive with myself and so hard on myself that I really wasn't getting anywhere. But there's a competitive piece of me while I was playing. So I was kind of bringing that to training, but it wasn't helping because I was so in my head. And so with Jess, it helped to I could be honest and tell her how I felt and be hard on myself. And she kind of helped level me out of like, hey, this is still a process. Like, even though I'm out of college, I'm on the U.S. team and I play professionally, I might not be right here right now at this point in my life. I may have gone down a few steps, and that's okay, right? It's like you got to recalibrate and understand where you are and understand that there's a new way to navigate it. The way that I was, approaching lacrosse previously from that physical standpoint of thinking as a goalie, oh, I have to see all these shots like 3 times a week before I have this or that. You just have to re-navigate. And then there's also the actual kind of mental fitness piece that Nate was bringing up that I've really tapped into and I've enjoyed, is just feeling that presence. And it's, what is it that helps you reset, like you said. And, for me, I've learned it's just about being outside. That's another piece of why I love lacrosse. I'm outside and my phone is not there at all. When I train, it's not there. And so I've been able to kind of tap into that and learn other areas to do that. And so I haven't been as hard on myself of what I used to do. Is it's like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or, oh, I didn't journal like I said I would, or, oh, I didn't do this or that. Instead, I've approached each day of what have I done that was right? I may not have been consistent each day, and I've now discovered new things that I enjoy as part of my mental fitness, whether that's a sauna, whether that's going to the beach, whether that's a cold plunge, or calling a friend up, or journaling. But it doesn't just happen consistently. So for me, it's just been kind of, you have to be able to adjust and navigate and be okay with it and make the most of it. Thanks for listening to my long answer.
No, it's great. It's all great stuff. I'm going to put you on the spot because both of you, actually, we've talked a lot about mental fitness off the field. but I know mental fitness on the field in the heat of the moment is the hardest thing to do as a competitive athlete like yourselves. So when you let in a goal, or when you, very rarely, but throw the ball away, how do you find a mental reset? Because I would challenge everybody in the room and everybody watching on YouTube right now to find a mental reset that works for you and really stick to that in practice, in games, because it does work. So if you don't mind sharing, with the audience, like, what have you found does work for you in that competitive headspace where it's so hard to find that mental reset?
Yeah, so I can think of plenty of experiences where that's happened. I've had coaches be like, hey, you just need one word. That's what's going to help you. Or what's your routine? Maybe you walk around the crease and then, or you say like, you'll get the next one. And what I realized was like, I didn't dig deep enough. I would be saying those things, trying those things, and it never worked. That word never worked. I tried all these different words, never worked. I couldn't seem to get a reset. And what I had realized was I was trying to reset for the wrong reason. Because I let a goal in, I was resetting of like, oh my God, I have to save the next goal. Oh my God, if I don't, now that's 3 goals let in. Oh my God, wow, that looks bad. Like, holy crap, And so instead, it's like, I just dug deeper, and I've also, I've read great books. I think The Inner Game of Tennis is good, Mind Gym, and I've worked on my breath work, and I just have learned how to be so in the moment that you're not scared of those things. And when you have that word or you say that thing, like you say it with conviction and you mean it. And that's the difference of like how to get out of that headspace is like you're saying something because your body and your heart owns it. And then you can go out there and fearlessly like lead yourself with that. So that's what's helped me.
I think it's also, as athletes, your mistakes are much bigger in your head and they replay way more frequently than anything good you're doing on the field. It feels way worse than it actually is in your own head. And so for me, the best way to get out of that headspace is reminding myself of that exact fact that I feel like this moment is so drastic. I just turned the ball over, or I missed a shot in such a critical moment of the game. And then you can start to spiral about what effect it's going to have on the outcome. And if you make another mistake, back to back, what that might lead to. But reminding yourself it's much bigger in your head than it actually is. And also something that's worked for me is just getting out of my own head by turning to a teammate and vocalizing how I feel. And that can be really hard. You have to be very vulnerable to be able to do that and really trust the teammate you're going to. So that teammate must know exactly what you need in that moment. And, that's something we work on both professionally and internationally with Team USA is building those relationships so that you have that trust and you have those teammates, exactly who to go to and when. And if you are someone who's vocal, like I'm someone who's a big energy person, if I need, someone to lift me up with energy to get out of my own head, I'm going to give that to them so that we're giving it right back. And so that's also something that comes over time. You practice these habits. Everything you do in practice is the same thing in a game. If you make a mistake in a drill in practice, it's the same kind of practice that you want to, and the habit that you want to have for when you're in competition in the heat of the moment. And it's not just something you flip on game day. The other thing is that we practice a lot of visualization. I'm sure you guys have heard of this before, if not done it yourselves, visualizing big moments, small moments, how you feel, what the weather is, what color uniform you're wearing, what any element of a game or a situation that you want to be prepared for. If you visualize it happening before it actually occurs, your brain tricks itself into feeling like it's already endured whatever you want to happen. So I think visualizing the positives is better than the negatives, of course. So visualizing how you feel in a big moment, maybe seeing yourself perform a dodge or, making a big save, or, it could even be from a leadership perspective, what you're going to say to your team when it's tied with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Any of those things, it takes 5 or 10 minutes to close your eyes a day and visualize these moments. But I've found that really powerful as well. So
the Champ Series is coming up. Are you visualizing how to stop a Charlotte North shot?
Absolutely.
Is it possible? No.
I see it coming right now.
You've probably saved more than anybody. Just how many times you guys practiced together and now competed against one another in the WLL.
Yeah, I remember when I graduated college, I was bummed because Charlotte was just getting on the scene. And I was like, I want to take on her shots.
That's what I'm saying?
And little did I know, now we've had so many opportunities too.
What's an incredible connection point, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but having this live show in Darien, Connecticut, and the fact that Team USA only has 2 goalies in the entire country, and it's you and Shea Dolce, both Darien High School products. You told me, you told me that you trained Shea when she was in 7th grade. How incredible is it to go from that moment right down the road at Darien High School to now putting on that jersey and competing with each other for Team USA?
Yeah, I mean, it's so incredible that each time I play with her, I feel that. It wasn't just like the first time I got to experience playing with Shea. It's, each time we play together, there's already this just like deep connection that we have and well respect. And that it's just so special because we make each other better. Like, even though I trained her in 7th grade, I mean, when I would train her in high school, I'd be taking from what I was teaching college goalies and applying it to her. So, and now I am learning from her and Shea is teaching me, even though we have different styles. So, I just love how it's continued to develop. It's not just like, oh, I'm coaching Shea. It's like, now we get to freaking play together and ball out and talk goalie stuff. Like, that's also like, you need another goalie to kind of lean on and talk that stuff.
So you coached collegiately, both at North Carolina and the University of Virginia. And you have so much experience, understanding yourself as a college athlete, of course, what these players go through, not just from February to May, but all year round. And then before that, you talked about the recruiting piece and how much it's changed in your time in the sport. For everyone watching and for everyone in the crowd, what would be your piece of advice? If someone had a question about recruiting in today's day and age, what would be your main piece of advice you would give to players?
That's a good question. Well, I think it was Nate or someone, maybe Jason, who said, you've got to be all in. And it's about you feeling all in from your heart, not because, hey, someone on Instagram or YouTube told you do this wall ball routine and now you got to do that 5 days a week and now you think you need to go to this college or etc. It's like, you got to do it yourself. Get out there and find your style and how you play, because that's what you're going to bring to the college and that's what's going to bring your confidence, kind of thing, and have fun with it. Like, that's where you fall in love with it. Yeah, with your teammates, but also by yourself, because the sport can be a grind. And if you want to make it there, you got to be able to, put in that extra work because you want to. So, the advice would be like you approach your parents of what you want. You go and research those showcases or ask other people. Don't have people coming to you, and make the most out of whatever training opportunity that you get. I think it's however you want your mindset to be, of either it's like an obstacle or an opportunity, and have fun turning those obstacles into opportunities.
I think a lot of people get to the college level and they feel like, okay, mission accomplished. The goal was to get into college and that's where the work ends. And I think you two do such a great job pushing the sport forward by saying that's just where it begins. Mm-hmm. And now look at the roadmap the sport has, where really you can play into your 30s and now play for Team USA and play professionally in the WLL. And I think you're seeing that. I think you're seeing a mindset shift in the sport. What have you two observed on that front in terms of the players coming up, having a longer trajectory and not saying, well, I just want to peak where I can get into college and then put my stick down?
They're really good college players. Even like 7 years ago, when I come back and watch Darien High School play, I'm like, damn, these high schoolers are good. So I just see how competitive and how it's leveled up so much. And, if it's just like such a joy to watch in high school, I can only imagine how they continue to develop and at the professional. So, I think we're just going to continue to see this, creativity in the sport.
I think it's all about adjustments too. Like, you're going to see this season starting tomorrow, all these college players who are now in the next year, whatever it is of their path, and they have to adjust in some way, whatever it was that they were dedicating themselves to during the off season, because of how they played, in the prior season and what they're going to face coming up in the current season. They're going to have to adjust and add elements to their game. Like, that's something that we experience on a daily basis, going from training camp to training camp. What did you do well? And what did you suck at? And what do you feel like you're motivated to work on for the next one? And then you tackle that. And that's just a recurring cycle. And same thing at the professional level, like game to game. What did your unit do well and what did they not? And how are you going to continue to adjust and add elements to your game? Like, you don't just want to have, a couple of strengths. You want to be able to play wherever your team needs you at any given point in time and be able to fill any role, no matter what team you're on. And I think that's one of the most underrated aspects to any athlete is their ability and selfless attitude to adjust to what is needed of them. But that's not just when you step out on the field and your coach puts you somewhere. It's the in-between hours when you're really dedicating yourself to growing your toolbox.
Incredible. Should we take a couple audience questions before we wrap up what has been an incredible evening? So if you have a question for Charlotte or Kaylee, fire away. Right in the front row.
Here we go.
Hi, actually for you both. So if you now could go back in time and start again at 13, starting lacrosse with everything you know, and then all the expectations and pressure that is out there with high school, middle school, and travel club, what would you tell yourself?
That's a good question. I think something that I go back to a lot and something I tell, any girl I'm lucky to interact with or coach on the field is I would write down, similar to what Nate said, actually, write down in your phone or on a piece of paper somewhere you can see visibly why you were drawn to the sport of lacrosse and why you love it, because it is lost so often in the pressurized situations and in the grind of the day-to-day or the year-to-year of what's coming up in your schedule and the tournaments and the clubs you're trying out for and whatever it may be. Just remembering why you love it can really keep you grounded. And it sounds vague, but everybody loves the sport for a different reason. And whatever drew you to it on days where you feel the lack of confidence, the lack of motivation, or you just feel stuck, I think that's something that you can always pull yourself back to. For me, it's watching my favorite players play, whether it's going on YouTube and watching their highlights, or it's watching an old game, whatever it may be. I love watching the players that I look up to and try to emulate. I love watching them play and watching fast-paced style of lacrosse. It's different for everyone. But I think centering yourself around that and keeping yourself tied to that throughout everything can help you mentally and physically. And I would also add, there's so much pressure now, especially with social media, pressure to be everywhere, a pressure to show up everywhere. I would say you're not going to show up as the player or person or teammate that you want to be if you do go 100% all in on everything. So you can't be everywhere at once. You can't sign up for every showcase. You can't go to every tournament. There's always going to be a shiny new event out there that is the best one of the year or whatever it may be. But I would ask yourself before doing that, am I giving myself the best chance to show up at 100% myself and grounded in what I am, who I am, and how I want to perform? And if that's 99% yes, I would say don't go. I would say you're going to benefit more by being home, being in the backyard, exploring the game, being with your teammates. A lot of that goes way longer than showing up to an event just because so many people are doing it. You know what I mean?
Kaylee.
Yeah, pretty similar. I think I would just say I was proud of how I just balanced it of enjoying the other things around lacrosse. So then when I did have lacrosse, I really soaked it in because that was that opportunity in that time. I think I was, busy with other sports and just doing other things. So I don't know if I would really say anything differently. I guess I'd probably be worried that I'd be on my phone too much. I didn't really have Instagram at that age. So yeah, it kept me outside by not having that.
Anybody else? All right. Oh, we got one in the middle. Yep, right there.
All right.
What's your guys' biggest motivation? What pushes you to be the best version of yourself, every time you play?
What an amazing question.
Really great question.
What's your name? What's your name?
Alice.
Alice, fantastic question.
I would say it's an answer you guys probably hear a lot, but it truly is my teammates. When especially for us, when we aren't seeing our teammates face to face every single day, like some of you guys might be, It's understanding and knowing the sacrifices that they're making, the drive that they have, and the commitment that they have to the betterment of the team every single day. Whether that's not playing lacrosse a certain day because I need to go get in the cold plunge and actually prioritize recovery, or it's, waking up and kicking myself, to perform at a workout that is going to drain me for the rest of the day, but I'm going to do it because my teammates are doing it. Whatever it may be, it can look different every single day, but it's remembering that your teammates are doing it for you and for the betterment of the team, and understanding that that's how you form a successful team, is having all of those like-minded individuals who are willing to do those things. That's how you achieve real success and real team success. So people like Kaylee who are doing it from across the country and reminding everybody on the team, what we're chasing every day. I think that's a big part of it as well. But it truly is the heart of the team and having those teammates behind you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I would say, my motivation has changed throughout the years. When I was in college, my motivation was, hey, I want to win a national championship with my team. You only get 4 years to do that. And then you graduate and it's like, okay, what's the motivation? You play lacrosse over the summer a couple times and then it's kind of ramped up. And at this point, my motivation is just when I step on the field with the US team or the WL, there's just this my whole body lights up because I'm just so grateful to be out there playing lacrosse, and that I've come to a point where I can just play it so fearlessly and with joy, and that I get to connect with all these teammates. So it's like Charlotte said, it's your teammates, and the motivation is that we're doing it together. And so, especially because we're apart so often, especially when you're together, you just it's electric. And it just fires it up. And it's even hard just sitting here next to Charlotte and being like, wow, I wish we could be playing lacrosse right now. There's just something about being around your teammates and sharing that space.
It's true.
I should have brought a goal. We should have done a little.
Hey, I would have been in.
I cannot wait to watch you guys compete against each other in just a couple of weeks at the WLL. All the games will be on ESPN. I'm fortunate enough to call them, and honestly, the best event I do every year is the national championship, Memorial Day weekend. It is such a special weekend every single year, and so appreciate your insight and really just bringing this whole event to life. I really don't think it would have been possible without somebody who sat in those exact seats, more than a decade ago, and now is truly living as a professional lacrosse player and a member of Team USA. So, Kaylee Waters, one big more round.
Thank you all.
That counts.
And you're the best. You're the best. And thanks to all of you. This has been such an incredible night. The fact that less than a year ago, Charlotte and I were just texting back and forth, hey, should we do this thing on YouTube? Should we give it a shot? Should we kind of take the leap and try and grow the sport of lacrosse and continue the conversation and elevate the conversation to now a room full of people, a ton of people watching at home as we kick off season 2. It's just truly a special night.
Yeah, thank you guys to Rhone. You guys get your swag bags before you leave.
Yes.
But I hope you guys feel like it's Christmas Eve because it is the eve of the NCAA lacrosse season. For us, it's so exciting because we get to be in the booth. We get to talk about it every Tuesday night on this show because of all of you who watch. And it's just the best to share our passion for the game with everybody else who loves the sport of lacrosse. The lacrosse community is very special. It's very unique. It is not similar to any other sports. You see it in basketball, you see it in football. Yeah. It is a special sport for a special reason. And a lot is on the schedule for all of you guys. You're going to be, chasing down a dream of playing professionally and playing, in the Olympics one day. So it's pretty cool. And we love talking about it with you guys. And thank you all for being here tonight.
Yeah.